morning, everybody. Welcome to my studio. George Coll here in Loveland, Colorado. Okay, this next series of paintings is going to be Cedar Break Springs. And of course, something new this week. It's how to work from a reference that isn't exactly all that great, but might have something in it that is a good foundation for a painting. So with that, you get two references this week. One of a not so good photo reference of an area in Cedar Breaks, Utah. And second, the second photo reference is a painting of mine that I did a couple years ago, smaller painting. And of course we're doing a larger rendition of it this series. We're going to be using a limited palette plus a few more. I'll be getting into that a little bit later. And but the challenge is how to use these references and using our imagination to make something beautiful out of, maybe a good foundation. I'll get into all that and laying that out step by step here in this process in part one and probably in part two also. So what else can I say? Get outside and paint, get good critiques on your work, and most important thing is keep painting. I'll be glad to provide these studio classes every week to you, and I hope you keep following. So thanks to my loyal followers, and looking forward to working with you on another good painting. All right, hope you enjoy this one as much as I have, and let's go ahead and get started with, here it is. All right, bye-bye. Good morning and welcome back to my studio here in Loveland, Colorado. I'm George Coll. Thanks for coming by to Cedar Breaks. This is up in Utah, and I think this was in March or April. There's a lot of snow up there at that time. And the thing that we're doing this week is how to make, among other things, how to make just a so-so reference into something maybe with a little bit more interest, and that's what we're doing. I was taken by this abstract shape with these darks here, and by the way, I didn't enhance that. That's the color my camera came out with, and but I just thought that was a great design, and there's a stream down there, so it's all hidden by snow. And the one on the right is a painting that I did of it a couple years back. I no longer have it, but I have a photo reference. And we're going to use these to make a painting this week. I'm working on a 15 by 30. I'm working on canvas on gator board. And I'm working with a limited palette plus. And before I go over the limited palette, you can find these two references on my website, georgecollgreatart.com. I'm going to start with using brushes this week, but I will also be using knives in the later part of the painting. Let's get back to the palette. My basic palette is ultramarine blue, permanent red medium, Naples yellow deep, Naples yellow deep, and cold gray. These are Remington Rembrandt colors, and this was this yellow is a Gamblin. When I said plus, I'm going to add a few more to the list. Yellow ochre. You can also use raw sienna this week if you want to instead of yellow ochre. Burnt sienna and Viridian. I'm also using titanium white. Any old brand of that will do the trick. Alrighty, so that covers the basic territory of what we're using with materials. And I'm going to start off with kind of probably a drawing brush. It's a number 4. Flat, and I'm going to be drawing shapes with this. So what I'm going to be concentrating on, the first part of the painting, is shapes. I want to make sure these shapes are in the right place. Now, I encourage you to work on these things on a sketch pad. That's a very important thing to do. I am not a good sketch pad person. I like to work out the shapes on my canvas. Every time I do it on a sketch pad and I go to the canvas, it still screws up. I have to move it around and do this and that. So I might as well just do it on the canvas. That's the way my brain works best. But please believe me, the best teachers also, they stress working this stuff out on on a sketch pad. So feel free to do that. So don't do what I do what I say. I'm not always the best teacher when it comes to practices. So what I want to start out with is figuring out a drawing color. So I'm going to use some burnt sienna, a little bit of blue, some gray, a lot of white. As you can see, I do a thorough mixing and mix up all parts of the pile. It's a light, warm gray, so it's kind of a brown gray. One thing I noticed from my earlier paintings to my later paintings is I made my darks too dark. And I'm going to lighten up my darks. I'm not going to be as dark. I'll show you and talk more about that as we go along. What I'm always trying to find at this stage of the painting, I just added a little bit of turped, so it's a little moist in the mixture, not a whole lot, but is trying to find out some foundation lines. And I see one here where the bottom of the trees are, the top of the trees and so forth. So I noticed that there is a top of the trees coming in here somewhere. I don't know, somewhere in there. So I've got a rough idea of where it is. It's not my final line. And then I see the bottom of the trees. I'll make them thicker on this side and make them thinner this way, so it gives a sense of perspective of going back. So it's be thicker, thinner. And what I'm going to do to make some interest is to break that slope so you're not sliding off the end of the painting like I did last week, and bring in a slope from right to left. Alrighty. So as you can see, even early on, we're not a slave to the reference. We're always trying to get good ideas from it and be inspired from it, but using our experience as painters and artists, we're going to add some of our own shapes and stuff like that. So I put a dot here because I want to say the stream goes back to here somewhere. And so I'm going to make some ideas of where the stream is going to be. It's going to be in here somewhere, so it's going to be some sort of it'll be the stream in there, wide stream or something like that. I may have it too far to the right, so let me see here. I'm going to bring in a slope here, bring it down, probably to here, and I have a bunch of trees here, and let me see if I can bring in some slopes here. All right, I'm going to get back and take a look at that because I'm wondering if I have it. Yeah, not too bad. Good start. Okay. So let's not worry about this configuration now. I made my best stab at it. I may need to figure out where it's going to go here shortly, but not worry about it right now. Hang on, I'm doing a little mechanical stuff here on for my Zoom students. Okay, my screen was crowded out by some emails. So I have my Zoom students, Anthony and Jan, today. So we're a good section swath of the Southwest. Anthony is in southern Colorado and Jan's in Prescott. All right, so now let me try to figure out where these trees are going to be. So let me add a little bit of dark to this mixture, just to one side of it. So I'm mixing a ultra blue and a yellow ochre. I'm going to add just a little bit of moisture to that. And you can see it's just a little bit different, so I just want to know where all these things are going to be, all these shapes. So I'm going to have a pretty good sense of trees up in here. And there's going to be a bit of a sense of a slope. So there's going to be sets up here and here. I'm going to switch over to a bigger brush here pretty soon as soon as I figure out where my lines are going to be. And so I'm probably going to have more trees right in here. And then more trees here and here and here. So you can switch off between either of these references. I'm kind of trying to go off of this guy here, but since I have a longer canvas than I have here with this rectangle, I'm adding a few more trees. And I'm going to have some sort of a few darks going off in here, little guys. And then a pretty good set of trees maybe here. And see if these are tall enough. And then I'll have some going back, and then I'll bring some at a slope here. Now I said I was going to leave this and kind of work on this a little bit. Now it's time to get back and figure out where these shapes are going to be on the stream. So I'm going to go back and work on that. So here's kind of these are sides of the stream here. See, I'm making these shapes. They're not rectangles. They're kind of like they're smaller here and they're larger on the bottom. Let me show you an instance right here. See, here's a side of a stream, and then another coming in here. Hope you can get a sense of that. And I better do some of that over here too. So there's going to be like the bottoms of these streams here, like this. Now you can start seeing some idea of the bottom of the stream. So here's the flat part of the bottom right in here, and here's the sides of the stream here. Now just having that isn't enough, so you want to have some, you want to display some, that's a little bit too steep. I want to try to show that there's some slope here. And I'll show some more here. And that's just what I'm doing here, showing that there's an angle here. All right, so with that, I think I can start using a bigger brush and moving into this guy a little bit better. I just stepped back and I saw that this could actually be brought forward even more. And this could be brought forward even more. I like this. This one's good. It's just an architectural type stuff to show, you know, wider, thinner. And it gives us a sense of proportion. Okay. All right, we've got to start filling in some of these big spaces here. I want to check our time, and we are about 14 minutes into this, and I think we're moving along pretty good, so let's have a sip of coffee and figure out what we're going to do next. Okay, with that little break, I'm going to switch over to, it looks like a 10. Yeah, it's a 10. Or maybe let's see what I got here. This one's even bigger. It's a 1 inch. And let me mix some darks up. So what I want to do is go kind of gray but darker. So it's going to go darker to lighter for my darks. So I'm going to get my old trusty guy here. I'm going to pick up everything I've got, smack it in the middle, throw in some blue and some gray. I'm going to throw in some yellow ochre. And it makes a deep, rich gray. Throw in a little viridian. I'm sorry, it makes a deep, rich green. Now, since that looks like a pretty sufficient pile, I'm going to make just a little bit more because I never make enough. And I just made more blue, gray, and yellow ochre. I'm going to add a touch of viridian. Now what I want to do is make things go back, so I'm going to add more gray to one side and some white and mix that into the side of it. And I'm going to use this gray green here and this darker green here as my two mixtures to figure out these big dark spots. All right, so let's get all the stuff off my knife. And I'm going to get a little bit of moisture here and then in my 1 inch. And I'm going to put in a few darks. I'm going to add a little moisture to my mixtures here. Might be a little too dark. I'm going to add some more yellow ochre to it. I'm adding more yellow ochre to the mixture. There we go. Oh, this is a great brush. Again, I'm using looks like a 1 inch Gold Star Craft. Not familiar with the brand, but these things just show up here. I think sometimes my students just leave stuff here. Again, remember, this showing angle is very important. And to do that with the trees is a good way to do it. You don't want everything on a flat plane. And it does a pretty good job. It's got a nice sharp edge to it. I could get used to this. I've been using, this type of stuff all along, and what I like about this is just real soft bristle, and it flops it on there very nicely. In this reference, there's a dead tree off to the left. I don't know if I'm going to use that or not. I'll see as I go along. I think I made that a little too tall. Let me wipe him down. And if you don't like something, just whack it off with a little bit of turp or a paper towel. Okay, let me get some little guys here. They're going to go a little bit above. And you can do a pretty good job with this guy. And I think there's a bigger clump right off in here. So what we're doing now is we did a line drawing to try to figure out where the shapes are. And now we're filling in with a value color. And we're doing a value drawing right now. So we're trying to balance out kind of a bigger clump, smaller clump here. And we're going to finish off with clumps here. And there's a few darks down in here we can mess around with. You go, what are these? I don't know, maybe they could be trees. I feel a little bit like Bob Ross. Put a little tree here. I'm going to get back and look at this. And I think we're doing okay. Now I mixed up that gray and I'm going to go to it now. I'm going to add a little moisture or a little bit of turp to it. And I think it's a little dark, so I'm going to add some lightener to it, just white, and a little bit of Naples. I should have avoided the white and just gone Naples. All right, paper towels. And a little bit more Naples. Mixing it thoroughly. I like to paint on glass or mix on glass. And if you're in the studio, why not? So I encourage you to think about mixing on glass. So right away you can see there's a difference between the background trees, which is a gray-green and a lighter value, and these trees in front. Again, I'm adding a little bit more turp. This is going on thin. This is a thin mixture. And I've got peekaboo holes, and I might be working on those off camera just to fill those in. I keep thinking, why didn't I tone this canvas? And then you don't have to worry so much about peekaboo holes. Alrighty, so we're starting to see a composition here. already. This is really great. I'm going to pick up my dark green and put it off to the side, but I think I can work with my gray here a little bit later. So I'm going to work with that also over here and clean my glass up a little bit. And now you can see why it's so advantageous to work on glass. You can really get a clean palette quickly with a razor blade scraper. And now I want to mix some sort of a warm, so let's go yellow ochre, burnt sienna, Naples, and let's make a light Naples right here. And let's go back to yellow ochre, Naples, burnt sienna, Naples, and I'm going to try to clean my number or my 1-inch brush out as best I can. I'm sure it has some pollution in it, contamination, and let's go with this nice warm mixture and see what we can do with it. A little bit more burnt sienna. So they're going to be thicker up here in the front and thinner as we go back. So we're going from, again, another perspective thing in drawing, thicker, thinner as we go back. I'm adding a little bit more of the lighter mixture to it as I go back also. And that's what I'm doing. And let me get a few more darks under here. And I might as well put a few more in other places. Well, that one didn't work. That was a lot of contamination. Let's go back now to our gray. Throw that in here. And a little bit of iridium. And some white. So you can see nice gray-green coming out of that mixture. That is a pretty color. And with that, with my brush that still has some of this warm in it, I'm going to start putting some of this gray-green into the banks. Didn't have it thoroughly mixed. Here we go. And this is a fun part of the painting. We're just slapping it on, and I mean, we have our drawing figured out. We hope the shapes are in the right place, so we don't have to change it later. And we're just laying these in. And I might as well put some of these in a few places too. And I went back to some of my darks here to even push that out even farther. And here also. Now, when you have this value in here, you can kind of see where you can add some interest in a few dots of dark to continue to tell the story of what you need to say here. All right, I'm going to move this off to the side and work on the bank color for a base. I'm picking this up. It looks like a lot of paint, but really when you pick it up, it's just pretty thin. And let's get into a lighter green. So I want a light green-gray as a base. So let's get some blue and a lot of yellow. A little bit of viridian and a lot of white. And let's see what that does. And there is a very nice light green-gray. But let's throw some gray in it anyway. Work that mixture. And let's go back to a lighter value. And one more white. Now, as I go back, I want to have more gray and a light gray back here, so I'll add more gray here, more white. And it's in the same value. Instead of green, it's going to go to more gray. Add just a touch of blue too. Ultra. Too much. So let's kill it with some white. More white. Okay, now the values are pretty close, A and B. And let's look at the time situation we've got. And I've got to finish this up in the next 5 minutes. So I'm going to be putting the green here. And here, and here, and here, and here, here, and here. Off camera, I'm going to be putting the gray up above. So watch what I do here. I have some contamination in my brush, but you can see it's going to be more of the gray here. And I'm going to be putting the gray up in here, 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 and there. So I'm sorry I have to do that off camera, but you can see I'm just filling in the blanks. And I'd like you to do that before the next lesson also. Because when I come on tomorrow, I'll have these white spaces filled in with this light green and the light gray as we go back. And with that, since we're coming up on time, I'm going to say thank you very much for coming in today. And this is going to be more than a 3-part series, I think. And I'm going to have my second COVID shot tomorrow night. So I don't know if I'm feeling bad on Wednesday as a reaction. That's why I scheduled a Thursday meeting. So, but we might have 4 lessons this week also. We'll see. See how I feel. But with that, let's bring this to an end and start again tomorrow. All right, thanks for coming by. And with that, we're going to say bye-bye.